The leader of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee is pushing for new action in the investigation of Hillary Clinton's email practices. This as the FBI's latest revelations raise new questions. The nonprofit watchdog Judicial Watch is looking into Clinton's use of a private email server. The director of research and investigations for Judicial Watch, Chris Farrell, joins us now by Skype to talk about the investigation. Welcome, Chris.
Great to be on with you. Thanks.
Congressman Jason Chaffetz of Utah asked a federal prosecutor Tuesday to determine if Clinton or others working with her had any part in the deletion of thousands of her emails by a Colorado technology firm. What is your take on Chaffetz's letter to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia?
Well, it's a good first step, but frankly, we've already had telegraphed to us the disgraceful decision of Director Comey. And really, what I think will end up being an institutional embarrassment for the FBI, because based upon the FBI 302s that were released last Friday, it's clear that the FBI, at the direction of Mr. Comey, was really just going through the motions. It's a sad day for the FBI, and the director has disgraced himself. I don't know that a U.S. attorney, at the request of Mr. Chaffetz, is really going to move the ball, given that Loretta Lynch is sitting as our Attorney General.
Well, Clinton and her longtime aide and lawyer Cheryl Mills told the FBI that they did not know about the deleted emails as far as those associated with the Colorado tech firm. And Clinton referred to Chaffetz's outline of the deleted emails as his latest conspiracy theories. Your reaction to these statements?
Well, there's a few things. I think Ms. Mills is in jeopardy of a bar complaint against her because it appears that she participated in the destruction of evidence that was subject to a subpoena. So I think she has a real problem. The fact that she participated in Mrs. Clinton's interview is disturbing as well. She was called in as a witness. Mrs. Clinton really was the subject of the investigation, but she wasn't Mirandized. Now you have Mrs. Clinton really attacking the discovery process affiliated with our litigation and a judge who was appointed by her own husband, Judge Emmett Sullivan. They are now venturing out onto very thin ice legally. It's an extraordinary claim to call legitimate questions about her unlawful activity a conspiracy theory. Nobody made Mrs. Clinton set that server up. She elected to do it herself.
Will more of Hillary Clinton's emails from her time as Secretary of State soon be made public?
Yes, in fact, next week, a batch of 14,900 will be made public. The State Department has a rolling production set up by court order in our litigation. I think very importantly, your viewers should know that at the end of the month, Judicial Watch will get Mrs. Clinton under oath. She has to answer sworn interrogatories we've posed to her. We are the only organization in the country to get Mrs. Clinton under oath. Not even the FBI took a sworn declaration from her. We will. And I think it'll be very interesting to line up all the various things she said earlier to our sworn declaration, to the follow-on emails that will be released, to some whistleblowers that I believe will be coming forward shortly. And when you line up all these pieces of information, I think the American public will have a very interesting examination or look at Mrs. Clinton's credibility, because, look, she, in my opinion, and I was a special agent of Army counterintelligence, I've done national security crime investigations. I've put people in jail for it. When you see the full record, it is absolutely clear that Mrs. Clinton mishandled national defense information and has been treated like no other federal government employee would ever be treated.
In an unusual move, the FBI released documents Friday related to its investigation into Clinton's use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State. You talked about this a little bit earlier, but why did the FBI do this, and why were the documents released on the Friday before Labor Day weekend, do you think?
Yeah, all of the, let's just call them troubling documents and emails in this case have been released on the day before a holiday. And that's a deliberate effort to bury the information in the news cycle. The FBI released the records because there's so much compelling public interest.
Judicial Watch says it's a nonprofit and nonpartisan organization. Why has Judicial Watch taken such an active role in investigating Clinton's email practices?
Well, because they're a very grave national security crime. She engaged in fraud and misrepresentation to the U.S. District Court here. We had filed a Freedom of Information Act request lawsuit. The State Department said, look, we gave you everything we have. They lied when they said that. They sheepishly came back to us about 10 months later and revealed that Mrs. Clinton had absconded with 60,000 plus emails. That's extraordinary. No other cabinet officer in the history of the country has ever set up their own server to do an end run around all the legitimate communications channels that exist. No one else has ever put the country in this sort of grave intelligence problem by compromising sources and methods. So it is an extraordinary event. It's of great public interest, particularly given the election that's coming up. And I'll also remind your viewers, look, we sued the Bush administration more than 200 times. We took Vice President Cheney to the Supreme Court of the United States over his energy policy task force. You know, I jokingly say we're equal opportunity offenders. We've upset or bothered both parties. For us, it's principles over politics. Sometimes people have a little amnesia about that. They think that we're only going after one party or one candidate. It simply is not the case. It's just that Mrs. Clinton's conduct here is so over the top. It's so extraordinarily dangerous that we felt compelled to get these records and to pursue the truth.
All right, Chris Farrell with Judicial Watch. Thank you for your time today, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.